That was a good dunk contest. Would you guys agree? Well, normally a lot of these guys, they might get stage fright, or they might be shy and embarrassed, but they got out here and they gave their heart, so I got to applaud it. Let's make some noise and show them some love. Well, today is finally the day that I'm able to come out here and be able to showcase my talent. But also, before I get started with that, I want to be able to sit down with you guys for a little bit and be able to share a little bit about my story, the things that I've gone through, that I had to go through to be able to get to this place of where I'm at today. It didn't all come easy. It wasn't all like just a cakewalk to be able to get to this like a professional level and be able to turn my dreams into a reality. I had to go through a lot of hardships and a lot of hard, dark roads to be able to make it out and get here. I grew up in a house with my parents, both of them using drugs and alcohol, and a lot of times when I talk with young people, they kind of can relate to me and be able to say like, yeah, that's like my home. My house was a party house. Every weekend, things were going on. It was my house. Everybody was coming to. And I grew up seeing my parents drinking, using drugs. My dad sold drugs. And there was a lot of negative things always going on around me. How many of you guys can kind of relate with some of those things? If you can, raise your hand. Some of you relate to seeing that around in your family. Well, that was nothing. That was the environment that I grew up in, the neighborhood, the people that was around me. And by the age of 11, I had already began smoking weed. I began going out, hanging around with the wrong crowds, getting involved with gangs and people that just weren't doing the right things. And by the age of 15, I had already got kicked out of my house. I had dropped out of high school, and I began selling drugs. And things went completely in a different direction than when I was your age, sitting down, playing basketball and football growing up. I had dreams of becoming a professional NBA player. I had dreams of becoming an NFL player. I played football growing up most of my life since I was 5 years old. I was an awesome quarterback, but when we needed a touchdown, I could switch to a wide receiver and throw it up. I always had just a leaping ability since I was a young kid and understood the mechanics of jumping. And so I grew up, I was an outstanding athlete. When I went to high school, I was like, for sure, I'm gonna make the team. I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna shut everybody down. I'm gonna get this college scholarship, and I'm gonna go on from there and shine, and I'm gonna go pro after that. You couldn't tell me that that wasn't gonna happen when I was 8 years old. But now, seeing myself at 15 years old, dropped out of high school, selling drugs, had no hope for a future of playing professional sports at all. Things continued to go down that wrong road when I decided to get involved with another group of friends that were selling cocaine and methamphetamines. And things went completely dark at that point. I was a completely different person. I never hung around with my family to go and see them or visit them. I was always out, and a lot of things, negative things happened. I lost some of my best friends that I grew up with. To this day, there was 8 of us that really always hung out. We went to tournaments, we did things together. And out of the 8, there's only 3 of us that are alive, that are doing well and successful with their lives. One is in jail, in prison for the rest of his life. 2 other ones died. One died in a nightclub, somewhere where he was just thinking he was going and having fun. But really, this kid had so much talent that he had no business to be out in the nightclub, hanging out with people that he should have been hanging out with. And those are the things that I want to share with you guys, is the people that you choose to surround yourself with in your life that are influencing you in negative ways. How many of you guys got friends that just, growing up or being in school, anytime and every time you're hanging out with him, it just seems like you get in trouble somehow? Raise your hand if you got friends like that. I know everybody's got friends like that, so don't try to lie. You might be the friend that gets people in trouble even. But I was the same way. I was that exact same way until I came to the point of realizing that I no longer wanted to live this lifestyle anymore. And I never came to that point early in my life. It had to come with some trials and tribulations that I was going through. I wish I could have changed my life when I was your guys' age, but things had to happen for me to realize that this is not the lifestyle for me. The choices that I was making was all negative, taking me down a different direction than when I was a young, where I wanted to be. And at 17 years old is when things went completely black for me. My back was against the wall. I had nowhere else to turn to. I had chose to go out and commit a robbery with 3 of my friends, and I got away, but them 3 got caught. And growing up, I was always told, you don't snitch, you don't rat, and this and that. But guess what they did when their backs was being put against the wall in a cell at the police office? Guess who they put all the blame on? They put it all on me. I was the one that got away. What do you do when you get caught at home eating the cookies, but your sister ain't around or somebody else? What you say? It was her that got him out, right? She opened the bag, right? You try to shift the blame. I know you. But that's exactly what they did to me. The friends that I thought always had my back. This whole street thug life type of mentality is, that they always got your back and they're your family. But the people that I turned my back against my family for are the people that turned me in when their neck was on the line. So I learned a valuable lesson that day. As I was sitting in my jail cell, I had the detective telling me, here's the pieces of paper that your friends all signed, putting all the blame on you. You're 17 years old, you're a grown man thing, so you're gonna be tried as a grown man. You're gonna be sent to a grown man prison. You're looking at 6 to 9 years in jail, and you look real pretty, and they're gonna love you in there. And I was getting scared for the first time in my life. I was really getting scared. He was throwing some scare tactics at me, and I'm not gonna lie, as thugged out and as tough as I thought I was, being in that cell alone, I turned into a little baby boy that was just crying, wanting his mama to hold him and tell him everything was gonna be all right. But guess what? Everything wasn't gonna be all right. She couldn't come in there and hold my hand and walk me through things. I had to face this all on my own. Finally, all the negative things that I had done up to this point had caught up to me. You ever heard a thing called, choices and consequences? Every choice you make has a consequence. Depending on what kind of choice it was, negative or positive, it's going to become that kind of consequence or outcome. So all the negative had finally turned out to this. Now, all alone in my jail cell, having no friends, no family to turn to, I'm crying to myself. I'm really looking at my life in a new way, in a new perspective, seeing like, man, I'm wasting so much time. I'm smoking weed with my friends on a daily basis. That's all I cared about. If I was doing anything, it was to get high and then go do something. I would wake up in the morning just to get high. I couldn't go to sleep if I wasn't getting high. If I wasn't with friends and things like that, I felt like, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my time. Those friends that I had surrounded myself had completely pulled me off of the path of my dreams of becoming a professional athlete. Those choices and things that I got involved with. Every single night we're partying and drinking and having fun. And I'm like, yeah, this is what high school is about, having fun. Hanging out, doing my thing. And time flies so quickly that before I knew it, I was 17 years old, sitting in the jail cell, having no hope or no future, and all my dreams, I realized there was no way that I was going to accomplish my goals and dreams that I had as a young kid. For the first time in my life, I looked at myself in a real clear view and realized that all that was over with. So I cried out to God. For the first time in my life, I began to cry out to God and ask God for help. Never really needed God before this. Everything else I was okay with. I'd pray to God when shootouts were happening at the party and things. I'd be like, oh God, shoot, save me from this, ducking and dodging. But thinking that everything was gonna be okay. This was the first time that there was no way out for me. So I cried out to God with a sincere heart. And I told God, I don't know how, but if you can get me out of this, I will completely change my life. I'll stop the drugs. I'll stop the drinking, the partying, chasing girls, doing all those negative things that had got me wrapped up into this lifestyle of sin and had taken me down this negative path. And guess what happened? Months down the road, I go to my court case. The witness, she doesn't show up. The police officer, for some reason or another, had something else going on. He didn't show up to the court case. My 3 friends ended up changing their testimonies to where they took their part in action for the case, so it wasn't all on me. And I ended up getting out with no jail time. And my attorney turns to me and he says, it's a miracle that you're not being taken out in handcuffs right now.